Ladies and gentlemen, internet anomalies, what is happening? Hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and if not, I hope that today's stream makes your day at least a little bit better. I'm your host, Newbie, coming to you live from the East Coast, the United States of America, and today, while I have a slight cold, I will be, covering a variety of topics because we have a lot of different things to get to. Now, first and foremost, I am going to be, of course, talking about the elections that will be happening. At the time of recording this or streaming this, the polls have not all closed yet. The earliest polls that will be closing will be in Virginia. You have the gubernatorial election, the lieutenant governor election, and the attorney general election. All of those polls closing at 7 p.m. We have more polls closing down the line. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to stay up all night covering each and every single one of these events. If I could, I absolutely would. But we're going to be talking about things beyond this as well. We're also going to be covering the government shutdown that's been happening, and some people are saying actually it might be ending soon, so we're going to be getting into that. Also, we're going to be diving into the basis for the claim that Democrats plan to fund healthcare for illegal immigrants, because that's been something that people have been debating about for a while. So I'm going to be diving into that as well. Then we've got some more fun videos. They're political, but they're, kind of interesting videos that I plan on reacting to as I have time to do so. In a lot of streams, I'm like, oh, we're going to react to this, that, and the other, but I'm not having time to react to all of those. So I just have a bunch of videos queued up, and then I'll react to as many of those videos as I have time to react to. But we've actually got people jumping in the chat. Nice to see everyone here in the chat. We've got Only Flutters here in the chat, who is new to the Discord server. Thanks for joining the Discord server, by the way. I do appreciate you being there. Also, those of you in the Discord server know that I missed an upload for Monday, I believe. I just didn't have enough political content to upload that was new. There was one segment that I could have edited, but I was like, it's late, and also, like, I don't know. I didn't feel like it would be interesting enough for you guys to even care. And I feel like it would sort of stick out. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to release this, at least not right now. I might upload that segment in the future. Who knows? But yeah, we've got Only Flutters in the chat. In the chat, we have the Angry Canadian here in the chat. As we have Discord moderators, the Canadian Supreme Court. Oh yes, he's been bringing this up in my Discord server as well. I need to read your article. I know you shared the article. You did what you're supposed to do. You brought up the political stuff with the political channel. I just need to engage with it now. I need to go and click the link, read the article, and then give you my thoughts at some point as well. Only Player says, "Oh no, not this guy again." Yeah, I know. That's what happens when you tune into this YouTube channel. The Angry Canadian said premiers even an NDP one are invoking the notwithstanding clause against Canada's Supreme Court. We could talk about how there are predators in the Canadian Supreme Court. We could, but I'm not as knowledgeable about the politics of Canada, and there are so many interesting things going on in the United States right now that I kind of want to dig into what's happening here at the moment. Now, pardon me for my cold. There's a reason that I have tissues over here by my desktop. Hold on, I've got to here, I'll clear this out, and then we'll be able to get started here. Hold up. All right. Hopefully that's a little bit better, because we're not going to be messing with my nose throughout the stream. I'm gonna go ahead and end the music because I do want to go ahead and dive into these topics here. So yeah, hold on, here we go. All right. So we've got these elections coming up here. Now, at the time of me recording this and me doing the stream, the polls have not yet closed, but there are a couple of really interesting storylines that I do want to follow. First of all, in Virginia, we've got the Attorney General race. That poll closes at 7 p.m. We actually might be live long enough for me to react to the results of that election. But we've got the race between Jones and Miares. I don't know. Is Miares' name also Jones? I don't know. But I know Jay Jones, he's the guy who has the scandal of him sending text messages saying that he wants a MAGA family or the family of a political opponent of his to be killed, and I believe their children as well. So that's a huge scandal. Now, the interesting thing about Jay Jones's thing is, I know there are polls coming out saying people didn't like it, but I think that he still has a fair amount of votes as far as the polls are concerned. I'm really interested to see if Jay Jones is going to win this race, because if Jay Jones wins, it kind of shows that, partisanship is extremely powerful. I think of all the things you could do that would disqualify you from public office, saying that you want your political enemies to be murdered, and specifically murdered, not like, oh, I want this person brought up on charges, things like that, or even like, oh, if this person died through the cartel, they'd be getting what they were asked for with the government policies. No, it's literally just like, I want these people, their family members to be killed, so that then they would finally move on public policy, which is literally what Jay Jones was saying in his text messages. If Jay Jones wins that election, that would really, I think, embolden a lot of people to start doing and saying a lot of wild things, because the lesson that shows the United States, and I guess even the world, is you can publicly, well, maybe not publicly, but you can say, hey, I think that, my opponent should die, and you can win elections. I think there are certain politicians who would like to say things like that on both sides of the aisle, by the way, because both sides of the aisle have extremists. There are people on both sides of the aisle, I think, who want to say something like that, but they, haven't been able to bring themselves to say it because they're afraid of the political ramifications of that. And so I think that in the wake of Jay Jones winning an election, if he does end up winning, you're going to start seeing more people test the waters and see how extreme they can get with rhetoric. I understand that what Jay Jones said was in private. I understand that he publicly apologized for what he said, but it's one thing to apologize in public. It's another thing to just say it in private. Of course, when you're running for president, you're going to, or not president, but when you're running for public office, you're going to say the things that you think will get you elected. So apologizing for saying violent stuff is one of those things, right? So did anyone really think it was going to double down? No, of course not. Now, maybe someone who's trying to follow in his footsteps might double down, and that's what I would like to see. The other interesting storyline from these elections is the New York City mayoral race. Now, from what I hear, it's going to be relatively close. However, it's generally expected for Zohran Mamdani to win this election. Now, people are saying, oh, New York City is going to die, it's going to wither and fade merely because a socialist becomes the mayor. I don't think that socialist destruction can happen overnight. I also don't think that Mamdani has the power to do everything that he wants to do, which would actually harm New York City. So in that respect, I'm actually not super afraid or worried about the future of New York City. Certain aspects of the city, of course, would go into decline, but this is not an Avengers level threat, in my opinion. But I do think that this marks a watershed moment, because look, New York City is sort of like the capital of the United States as far as finance and business is concerned, which, a whole lot of stuff revolves around business in things in that sector, right? A whole lot of companies as well are headquartered there, not just financial companies, but a whole lot of companies are based out of there. All of the news channels, I think, broadcast out of New York. So it's very major who is running New York City. And if it ends up being Zohran Mamdani, I think it sort of proves that, socialism isn't necessarily mainstream, but it certainly is gaining ground among Democrat voters. And so I think it sort of shows, hey, you can openly be a socialist and win your election, not just in a smaller state where no one's really paying attention like Minnesota, but like an actual big election, an actual big state, an actual big city in a very large and important state, which is New York. It's not going to cost you your vote. And if being a socialist can't cost you your vote over there, then why would it cost you your vote in another city or another state? Another thing too, be ready for some people to who are Democrats to say, you know what, I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a sorry. Prepare for some Democrats running for office to be saying, hey, I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a socialist. I'm actually a communist. It'd be really interesting to see if we start seeing Democrats saying that as well. Although I would not expect that to happen overnight, because I think it's technically illegal still for you to have like a communist party in the United States or whatever, which, as much as I oppose communism, that rule should be overturned. You guys know me. I'm a huge fan of the First Amendment. And, I think that, rules saying, oh, you can't be a communist and run for president sort of run counter to that. So, I do oppose that. But still, it really does show that the Democratic Party is getting more and more extreme as time goes on. Now, I know that people are hopeful, saying, oh, Mayor Mamdani will be able to fix all of our problems and make everything free. I don't think so. I don't know that that's what's exactly going to happen, but we will see. Because I'm saying we will see, because I'm pretty sure Mamdani's going to win that election. Bro, I wish Sleewood would win that election. That'd be so fun. But no, I don't think that New Yorkers are interested in anyone remotely Republican running for mayor. So all right, my apologies. Hold on, I'm gonna toggle this over here on the second screen. All right, we have this story here, and this is something that I kind of expected to happen, because in case you guys aren't aware, there's a big government shutdown happening in the United States of America. A lot of this is over healthcare. This is one of like the big pillars, but there are like some other things as well. And so this report here is from NBC News. It says some senators predict the government shutdown could end this week. Now, I've been telling people IRL, I haven't been saying this in the Discord server, but I haven't been saying this on stream because I haven't had the opportunity to say so, but I've been saying for a while that once the elections end, people are going to figure it out and the government's going to be funded. This is all a tool to get people and mobilize people to vote for Democrats in these elections. And actually, we're seeing some of this as well. I've been seeing some people going out saying, oh, you don't like the government shut down, then vote for Democrats. Like, it's just so blatantly obvious that, it's in my mind at least, that this is an effort just to win some votes, right? The timing is just too awkward, right? They timed it up so that it would be at a point where you've got the SNAP funding that was theoretically in jeopardy until the judge said, oh, you've got to fund it. Now you have Democrats running around saying, oh, Trump actually isn't going to fund SNAP to sort of instill panic in people. You've got people sort of like drumming this up and saying, hey, look, Republicans don't like you. They're really, really mean. And, this is, a very obvious political trick. Now, very obvious political tricks don't mean they don't work, right? So I would not be shocked if Democrats win a lot of their elections. I know there were a lot of Democrats facing safe elections, tonight, but I wouldn't be shocked if we do see a slight swing where, oh, this election was supposed to be close, but, the Democrat ended up pulling further away. Wouldn't be shocked if we see a little bump there because of the fear mongering over the government shutdown that the Democrats have created, because, you've got the clean CR, which the Democrats could, I think they could agree to it right now. And then everyone's SNAP funding and all the other stuff would be very, very safe. It's already safe, but it would be even safer. The the Democrats could say, hey, we actually want to fund SNAP, but no, they don't. So, well, at least not till the election happens. But let's read this, because I really am wondering if what the senators are saying is going to be different than sort of what I've been surmising, which is this is a big political trick. It's a gamble. Democrats want some votes. But let's see what the article says. Some senators predict the government shutdown could end this week. Bipartisan talks between rank-and-file Democrats and Republicans have been picking up, while House Speaker Mike Johnson endorsed a plan to fund the government into January. Let's see here. This is by Scott Wong, Lily Boudreau. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Frank Thorpe V, and Ryan Nobles. As the 35-day government shutdown ties for the longest in American history on Tuesday, senators predicted that the impasse could end this week. I'm pretty confident, says Senator Mark Wayne Millen, a Republican from Oklahoma. After weeks without any movement, bipartisan talks among rank-and-file members have been picking up, leading to the first public sign of optimism that the shutdown could end. Mullins said that some Democrats had privately indicated last week that they were willing to vote for the short-term Republican spending bill that would reopen the government through November 21st. But, Mullins said, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, had instructed them to wait until after Tuesday's election so they wouldn't depress turnout from the liberal base that has been urging the party to hold the line. Hold on, wait. That's absolutely insane. That it's so, like, to me, it's just like a common sense thing where it's like, oh, you know, if we do this, then we'll get more votes. For it to be so explicit, to have been instructed by Chuck Schumer, that really surprises me. Hold on, here we go. Okay. I wonder if, because we've got that 9-minute long video. Okay, hold on, here we go.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's petty request to pause ICE operations for Halloween. Here with reaction to all of it, Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. Senator Mullen, you've got a very clever take on what the Democrats are doing with this shutdown. I've seen and read you say previously that they're waiting till at least Tuesday's elections in New York City, in Virginia, in New Jersey, and elsewhere to even...
I did not know that he's been saying this, to be honest. I've been saying this since 3 weeks ago, I think, because this is kind of weird. Because if you guys aren't familiar with government shutdowns, usually what happens is there's bickering and fighting over certain contingencies in a spending plan, and so the Republicans will be like, "Oh, we want this." The Democrats will be like, "No, we want that." Then they'll go like, and then they'll come up with new agreements. Republicans will be like, "Oh, we want this." Democrats will be like, "No, we want that." Still disagree. Then you've got something else that they've come up with. Finally, they agree, and then it's all over. But that's not what we've been seeing at all. What we've literally been seeing is Republicans saying, fund the government for a little bit so that all of the employees are getting paid while we figure out what we're going to do with the budget. Democrats are saying, no, just give us everything that we want now. Republicans are like, well, maybe we could give you a little bit of the things that you want, but there's still other things we want to negotiate on. Democrats are like, no, give us everything that we want now. There's been such immobility, especially on the Democrat side, but also partially on the Republican side, over what this fight has been over, that to me it's just like very clearly they want the government to be shut down. Like in the past, of course, I think usually it's Republicans. They want a government shut down to sort of like induce shock and awe, or to get Democrats to agree with them, because there's nothing that Democrats like better than funding the government. So they're like, oh, well, we're not gonna let you do your favorite thing unless you agree with what we say. And so usually the whole goal of it is like, let me get you to agree with me. That involves negotiation, that involves compromise, and that involves speaking with members on the other side of the aisle. What we've been seeing, especially at the early stages of this shutdown, was literally just like two people backing into a corner like this. I don't like what you want to do. And to me, it's like, oh, what's this? This is not normal, because they're not even like trying to negotiate with each other. Sorry, I'm sick. They're not even trying to negotiate with each other. So it just seemed kind of obvious that they didn't just want the government shutdown to happen like Republicans usually do. They wanted it to last. I think this gives a really good reason why they would want a government shutdown to last.
Think about reopening this government. So it's one thing to say they're leveraging power over President Trump and the Republicans. That's not true according to the polls. It's quite another to accuse them of playing politics. Explain.
Well, Kellyanne, first of all, I love the two first names. We have something in common there. When you start talking about what the Democrats are doing, this was never about policy. This is about Republican policy versus the Democrats' politics. First of all, they shut it down because the Democrats' base demanded them to do that. They've been chanting that all year long, shut it down, shut it down. Once they shut it down, they knew they were in a mess because they entered a fight that they had no end for victory. They didn't know what victory looked like. They shut it down just because of anger, because of because of their hatred towards President Trump. But then they said, well, we're going to open it back up after No King's Day or No King's Rally because, hey, listen, the base will be really upset if we do that before the rally, so let's open it up then. After they went to the rally, they realized that their base was only more dug in. So now what the Democrats are literally telling us this, they plan on open it back up probably Wednesday or Thursday after the election, after they elect a communist in New York to be the mayor, after the New Jersey's gubernatorial race, after Virginia's governor's race. They're going to come out. They're going to look for an exit ramp because they know they're losing. Shoot, even CNN polls are showing that this isn't good for them.
Interesting.
The American people have already been exposed to, Congresswoman Clark by saying that this is a leverage point for them.
Yeah, that was crazy. They were literally saying, "Oh, we're gonna get rid." I think that some Democrat was asked, like, "Oh, well, what about the SNAP funding? The people on SNAP are going to lose, access to their funding that they use to buy their groceries." And the Democrat was like, "Well, I mean, hey, it's the leverage that we have. We hurt these people, and it's a pain point. The more people that we hurt." I know I'm going a little bit far, but but she was literally like, "Oh, it's a point of leverage," insinuating that she didn't care that constituents across the country are going to go hungry because she didn't get what she wanted in her budget bill, or spending plan, whatever it's called. I don't know if it's a full-fledged budget that they're voting on, which was stunning. It may be true, right? It may be obviously true to people who are paying attention to politics, but for it to be just so blatant and transparent kind of surprised me. And I think it surprised a lot of people.
Chuck Schumer say every day's getting better for them. You had Senator Coons from Delaware goes out and says it's
Senator what? Okay, no, I'm playing.
uncomfortable, but it's a leverage point. And even Bernie Sanders goes out and says they can't open it back up because they lose leverage. But they also know they need an exit ramp. So after the election, Kellyanne, they're going to come out, and at that point, they're going to go out there and rail that they're going to take the high road. They're going to try spinning it on President Trump and the Republicans. And after they get done talking their way out of, I don't know, themselves, they're going to eventually open it up probably Thursday, I'd say midday.
And Senator, what does that look like?
That's a very specific prediction. I'm very curious. I think it's going to take 2 days for all the details to be ironed out, in my opinion. I'm saying Friday. I'm not a betting man, but I like making predictions. So let's say, in the chat, 1's in the chat if you think Mark Millet's correct. 0's in the chat if I'm correct. You think it's going to be Thursday, the government's open, or Friday. I think it's going to be one of those 2 days.
For the Democrats who really decided to die on the hill of health care, extending Obamacare for illegals, they'll say, that's not the law. You can't do that. We've all discussed this 6 ways to Sunday. We know that that's exactly what they mean. What will it look like for them? Will they seen as either negotiating with Republicans or capitulating and abandoning their base on this?
Well, one thing that they're going to go out and say, they're going to be guaranteed a vote on trying to fix this for the health care. But once again, this was never about a policy. This is just something that they wanted to say. If they were serious about it, they wouldn't be wanting $1.5 trillion to open the government up at that time for 4 weeks.
It also would be also they would have just, like, you know, figured out the details and provided a better proposal to Republicans early on. There were rumors that there was going to be a shutdown, like, I think weeks before the shutdown even started, and I was like, man, they are either they're like me and they're just turning in their homework late, or two, which is most likely, that they are literally doing the government shutdown on purpose. I would say that when I was seeing it, like, weeks in advance. So, you know, it's, I don't say, yeah, I think it's very obvious that, you know, this is not about negotiation at all.
Wanting $1.5 trillion to open the government up at that time for 4 weeks. Now it's just a matter of days. What they're going to try to say is that millions of people are going to die because they've lost Medicare. But keep in mind, Kellyanne, this fight is about discretionary spending, not mandatory spending. What they're talking about was the one big beautiful bill that cut waste, fraud, and abuse in the tune of $1.5 trillion, and that's under mandatory spending. That doesn't have anything to do with what we're dealing with right now. Right now is discretionary spending, and so what their argument isn't even pertinent to what we're dealing with today. So it was, as I keep going in circles, it has nothing to do with policy. It was strictly politics for them because their base demanded them to shut it down. And you have Leader Schumer, who is, you know, scared of AOC, who is afraid that she's going to challenge him in 2028, and so he had to do this. So after the Tuesday election, he's going to let the handcuffs off. He's going to let Dick Durbin actually stand up and vote, because he already signaled that he wants to. And you're going to have probably 5 to 10 other Democrats are going to vote to open the government too. But I bet you Schumer still votes no.
Interesting. That would make sense. Actually, that would make sense. So, you know, that's sort of Senator Mullins' position there. It says here, after weeks without any movement, I'm not seeing enough movement. I'm not seeing enough movement. Bipartisan talks among rank and file members have been picking up, leading to the first public signs of optimism that the shutdown could soon end. Mullins said that some Democrats had privately indicated last week that they were willing to vote for the short-term Republican spending bill that would reopen the government through November 21st. But, Mullins said, Senator Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, had instructed them to wait until after Tuesday's elections so they wouldn't depress turnout from the liberal base that has been urging the party to hold the line. Schumer's party had no immediate comment. Schumer's office had no immediate comment. I think there's a possibility we could do it tomorrow night, but more than likely Thursday, said Mullen, who regularly speaks with President Trump, Democrats, and his former House colleagues. Centrist Republican Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota, who has taken part in some of the bipartisan talks on how to get the government reopened, agreed, repeatedly saying he's optimistic the shutdown could end this week. Another thing I should add is that I've been hearing rumors of different, proposals and things that people are pushing behind the scenes, which signals to me people are negotiating again. With people negotiating again, that means that we're closer to the government shutdown ending. So that's also one of the reasons why I'm thinking, this government shutdown is going to end around the time that the elections do. It says here, and Senator Eric Schmidt, Republican of Missouri, also pointed to Tuesday's elections in Virginia, New Jersey, New York, and California as a key factor that could shake loose a solution to the impasse. After the elections come and go, I think the Democrats will reveal what this was about all the time, which was a political play. They want to keep their base upset, try to blame Republicans, even though they voted over 13 times now to continue to shut down the government, Schmidt told reporters. So my guess is that later this week, when I'm funding the government, as the Republicans had proposed 35 days ago. Democrats, however, have dismissed their GOP argument that the reopening government will all hinge on the election, with Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut mocking it as a cynical galaxy brain thinking. Okay, okay, Democrats, if this is not about the election, then you need to wait until at least like Thanksgiving Okay, not Thanksgiving. That's a little ridiculous. But wait an extra week or two, or fund the government today. I know it's probably too late. Y'all are probably already flying back home in your private jets or whatever. But I seriously think that, you know, for all this bluster that the Democrats are going to say, they're still going to end up funding the government within a few days. Like, let's be real. Because again, what do Democrats like more than funding the government as much as they can, as quickly as they can? Adrenochrome? No, I'm joking. But for real though, Democrats love funding the government. They can't resist it. So, you know, unless they think that resisting it will get them more votes. So we'll see. I really do agree with Mullen's take here. Republicans need just 5 more Democrats in the Senate to break with their leadership and vote for a continuing resolution or CR to reopen the government. On September 26th, the GOP-controlled House had passed a clean CR to fund the government through November 21st, but Senate Democrats opposed it, insisting that any bill to fund the government must also address health insurance subsidies that will expire at the end of this year, raising premiums for millions. Tuesday marked the 14th time that Democrats voted to block the House bill in the Senate. But with November 21st and the Thanksgiving holiday fast approaching, there is now a need for Congress to pass a longer CR, possibly into the new year, to give bipartisan negotiators a longer runway to craft spending bills for the fiscal year that began on October 1st. It's absolutely ridiculous that they need this much time to fund the government. The homework is more than a month late. Why is it taking them so long to turn it in? Like, hold on. Even if it's all just political games, right? They've had 35 days to figure out what exactly they want to do to fund the government. Even if they wanted to keep the government closed until today, by tomorrow, I'm quite sure they should know what they want. And if they don't, that's preposterous. Why is it take government so? Now maybe this is how my profs looked at me, but still, like, it should not take the government this long to fund to figure out how they want to spend your dollars. That's crazy to me. That's insane. And so listed here is the key date in the shutdown. November 5th, the government will set the record for the longest government shutdown with day 36. There's not much left in the article here. It says Senate Appropriations Committee Chairman Susan Collins, whose panel is responsible for writing spending bills, said Monday night she is cautiously hopeful they will be resolved by the end of this week. There have been a lot of conversations on both sides of the aisle, across the aisle and across the chambers, the main Republican said, and I do believe that we are finally making progress. Collins cited a level of specificity in the talks that had not been there in previous negotiations, but it's too soon to declare that this nightmare of a shutdown is over. The Appropriations Chair supports a new CR to keep the government funded through December 19th, which she said would pressure Congress to reach a spending deal right before the holidays. It's a well-worn tactic for forcing a funding deal, but it's drawn opposition from many in the GOP in recent years. On Tuesday morning, House Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, said he opposed setting a deadline in December, warning that it could entice lawmakers to pass a massive omnibus spending package rather than individual funding bills that are more carefully crafted to address spending. He said he would back a CR that funds the government into January, a timeline endorsed by Florida Senator Rick Scott and other Republicans. See, here are some of that like back and forth the negotiation I was talking about. It's like Democrats want to fund it until December, Republicans want to fund it until January. Like, see. And this is like the specificity that official was speaking of as well. That Susan Collins was speaking of as well, where it's like, oh, now they're actually saying what they want. Interesting. They weren't doing that before. Let's see here. He said that he would back a CR that funds the government to January. Oh, we've already read that part. I'm not a fan of extending it into December because, let's be frank, a lot of people around here have PTSD about Christmas omnibus spending bills. Johnson told reporters, we don't want to do that. It gets too close if we don't want to have that risk. We're not doing that. But too many people have concern I think putting it into January makes sense. But there are no bipartisan negotiations happening at leadership level with Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat from New York, about a longer-term CR. Across the aisle, some rank-and-file Democrats are hopeful for a breakthrough as the shutdown approaches the 5-week mark on Wednesday, but they're not sharing the GOP's confidence that it will all be over by week's end. Well, of course not. No. They've got to continue to pretend it's not about the election. Democrats have been demanding that Trump and other GOP leaders come to the table to negotiate extending the expiring Affordable Care Act subsidies. So far, Republicans have refused and say Democrats need to vote to reopen the government first before any substantive health care talks can take place. There seems to be some indication of a thaw, but I see no immediate solution on the horizon, said Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut. Talks are a good thing, but so far I see no willingness on the part of Republicans to really assure the American people that health care insurance will be guaranteed. Speaking on the Senate floor Tuesday, Schumer said Democrats are fighting to lower health care costs at a time when 24 million Americans on health and Obamacare are facing sticker shock due to uncertainty about the expiring subsidies. Never have American families faced a situation where their health care costs are set to double in the blink of an eye. Schumer said the biggest beneficiaries of these enhanced premium tax credits are red states, millions of people in Texas, Florida. Republicans seemed ready to tell their own constituents back home, screw you, I would rather cut taxes for billionaires. That's what's going on. Schumer said Democrats are going to keep pushing to get these tax credits extended. So really interesting. I am curious to see whose prediction will end up being correct. Would love to hear in the live chat as well as in the comments below who you think is correct. For all I know, the government could be funded by the time this video goes up. Would not shock me at all. Would not shock me at all. But we'll see. All right, so real quick, we do have some results come in. These came in from over in Virginia. We've got Spanberger beating Earl Sears by a healthy margin, I would say. That's about a good 15 percentage point lead, but it's less than 1%. And we have Hashmi beating Reed with less than 1% in. That's an 11% lead that has just been updated to about 12 or 13% lead. So that's interesting. And then for Attorney General, we've got Jay Jones beating Miyares with less than 1% in, with a lead of about 5%. Just figured I would give you guys that update since I have it available. I can't provide updates all night, but I'll give you guys updates as I see them. Let's see. You know what? There was this article. I guess I could go through this. So some people are bickering back and forth as to whether or not the Democrats' spending plan for the federal government would include funding for illegal immigrants. Now, I went and read the fine print for the White House and GOP sourcing for this claim, and I was kind of surprised by what I found, and I'll explain why I was surprised. So here's the memo. It's called Democrat Plan to Fund Healthcare for Illegal Immigrants. The Working Families Tax Cut Act, signed into law by President Trump, contains the most important America First healthcare reforms ever enacted. The policies represent a comprehensive effort to address waste, fraud, and abuse to strengthen the healthcare system for the most vulnerable Americans, ensuring that taxpayer dollars are focused on American citizens and do not subsidize healthcare for illegal immigrants. Democrats are demanding these reforms be repealed as a condition of keeping the government open for 4 weeks. This would result in federal government spending nearly $200 billion on healthcare for illegal immigrants and non-citizens over the next decade, nearly enough to fund the entire children's health insurance program over the same period, all while repealing reforms that strengthen care for the most vulnerable Americans. By the way, I do want to make an aside here. That some of this argumentation, I'm a Republican as well. I lean conservative. I have to admit, some of this argumentation is BS, I will say, because when the government says, oh, when Republicans or Democrats or anyone in the government, but especially the federal government who loves to borrow money says, oh, man, that's a waste. That's so much money, dude, to spend on this. Man, I just don't know if we can afford all that. I have to check the budget. I have to penny pinch. I have to see where we can find that extra $200 or $300 billion. That's all just fake. Really, they just don't want to spend money on that thing. Because look, hold on. Let me see. What was the last time we had a deficit? Last time we didn't have a deficit. I'll ask my Amazon device. And I'll ask Google. Google always gives me better answers, but I like to be courteous to my little Amazon device over there. Alexa, and let me turn it up as well, because I had it turned down because it is a little loud, to be fair. But Alexa, or sorry, not Alexa. Hey Ziggy, when was the last time the governments of the United States of America did not have a deficit?
Sorry, I don't have an answer for that.
What did I tell you? Hey Ziggy, when was the last time the federal government did not have a deficit?
I don't know.
See, no, Alexa doesn't know. Hey Google,
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
when was the last time the federal government of the United States of America did not have a deficit?
The last time the federal government of the United States did not have a deficit, meaning it had a budget surplus, was in fiscal year 2001.
2001, bruh. So not since the terrorists knocked down the Twin Towers have we had a government surplus. So, people saying, oh, can we afford that? Can we not afford that? You're borrowing money every single year. What do you mean you can't afford it? What do you mean is $200 billion too much to add to the trillions of dollars in debt you're putting us into each year? Give me a break. So recognize that when you see arguments about whether or not we can fund something. I actually agree that, we shouldn't be spending more than we're making. But when you're borrowing a ridiculous amount of money anyways, $200 billion is like a drop in the ocean compared to, all of the money that you're spending, right? Let's keep reading, because we did get a little bit off topic there, didn't we? Let's keep reading because we got off topic. Sorry. This memorandum outlines the provisions in the WFTCA that end taxpayer funding for the healthcare of illegal immigrants and non-citizens, which Democrats are demanding to repeal. Limiting federal healthcare benefits for illegal immigrants and non-citizens. So I think this is the section that caught my eye. The WFTCA takes a comprehensive approach to aligning eligibility requirements across federal healthcare programs to ensure taxpayer dollars are not subsidized healthcare for non-citizens, including illegal immigrants. Specifically, the law limits eligibility under Medicaid, Medicare, and Obamacare to citizens of the United States, legal permanent residents, limited categories of individuals granted legal status, and individuals lawfully in the United States in accordance with the Compact of Free Association. These provisions ensure that Medicaid cannot be used in conjunction with abuses of the immigration system, like the Biden administration's misuse of the parole and asylum processes to supplement radical open borders policies and serve as a magnet for illegal immigration into the United States. Repealing these eligibility limitations would increase federal spending by more than $102 billion over the next decade and leave the United States vulnerable to illegal immigration. Okay, here's the big part. Here's the big part. Ending enhanced funding for emergency care provided to illegal immigrants. Under the WFTCA, states will no longer be able to claim enhanced federal funding for reimbursing hospitals that prefer emergency care services to illegal immigrants beginning on October 1st, 2026. Now, to me, this is rather interesting. This is rather interesting because I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, but I actually kind of support this because, look, hospitals at the moment have this rule where it's like, if you've got someone who, you know, needs emergency surgery or emergency care, the hospital has to provide that surgery. But then you've got the problem of who pays for that healthcare. That's something they figure out later, right? Sometimes they pay out of pocket. Sometimes they pay through the healthcare insurance program. Sometimes the federal government pays for it. This argument and that debate, negotiation is what that line is all about. If an illegal immigrant comes into a hospital and they need healthcare, let's say they got, I don't know, shot in the toe or whatever, and you know they need surgery or else they may die of sepsis, right? I think that might be the case, especially if you're wearing toes outside. If you're not wearing shoes, you're outside in the dirt, in the woods. Yeah, and you might get sepsis. Anyways, so when that person gets their health care, you've got the question of, well, who's going to pay for the health care? So I think what this stipulated was what before the WFTCA, that healthcare would be reimbursed by the federal government. Post WFTCA, the healthcare would not be reimbursed by the federal government. So I actually support that this being funded, so long as I'm supporting this being funded by the federal government, so long as it's limited to emergency care. You know why? It's because I think that an illegal immigrant who is facing a life-threatening situation should have the care that they need. And when it comes to who funds it, what are you going to ask the illegal immigrant to pay for it? They're not going to be able to afford that, most likely, especially if you're deporting them right after this, right? Because they're displaced. They have to find a new job. They probably won't be paid back home as much as they're getting paid here. Is the insurance gonna cover them? No, because you can't be covered under insurance if you're an illegal immigrant. So, you know, it's the only real solution, I think, to getting this funded is actually having the federal government cover it. So I actually am on board with the Democrats proposal here to fund this healthcare, because you know, I think it's rather important. I just don't think that illegal immigrants should be left to bleed out and die, or citizens be left to bleed out to die if hospitals can't verify that they're citizens, or healthcare is indiscriminately offering healthcare but not being able to afford the cost of all that care. So that would force either healthcare costs to skyrocket, or it could force hospitals to shut down, I'd imagine. None of those things are things I want to see in the world. So I do actually support this policy. And there are other things here as well, but that's like kind of like the big one. So like there's the California loophole. Says California utilized an egregious loophole since employed by several other states to draw down federal matching funds used to provide Medicaid benefits. So basically giving Medicaid to illegals. I'm glad that loophole is getting filled up. It says here, but yeah, that's like the big thing, because when I was like, what? Healthcare for illegals? How's that legal? Turns out it's not exactly legal, but I do think that emergency care should certainly be reimbursed, because I don't want illegals just bleeding out and dying in the street. And that's not what I want to see in the world. All right, let me check the races. Do we have an update on the races? Let's see. No major updates. We've got 5% in for most of these races. So nothing really major to report. Doesn't seem like any media is calling any of these elections yet, which is surprising. Thought a lot of these would be just like instant calls for blue, except for Miyares and Jones, of course. But we got Miyares in the lead, which is interesting. Alrighty. So we've got this video here. This is from Hannity. from Fox News. It says, not even Obama could endorse this. I believe he's speaking of Zohran Mamdani here.
In New York City, a brand new Atlas Intel poll. It's weird about Atlas because nobody really knows who they are. But the polling is extremely accurate. It shows Zohran, commie, Marxist Mamdani hemorrhaging support, now just up by less than 5 points. Mamdani spent the weekend campaigning at night.
That surprises me. I was not expecting that. I wonder what would cause his numbers to plummet like that. Genuine question. I don't know, because no dynamics have really changed. There's no big scandal. What did Zohran Mamdani try eating soup with his hands this time? Like, I don't think that there's like a major scandal that happened where people would look at it and it should be changing their vote.
Nightclubs across the city because apparently communism sounds a lot better after you've been drinking. Take a look.
Bro, who came up with a name of a club? Who came up with the name of Poppy Juice for a club? Huh. I would love to see hear what the special drink they're selling at the bars. Oh, I want the Poppy Juice. Okay, slow your roll here.
Poppy Juice, how we doing?
I think I'll pass on the Poppy Juice.
So I want to know, are you ready to win this race? Are you ready to beat Andrew Cuomo? Are you ready to make history?
Everyone hangs out on a weekend of Poppy Juice campaigning. Anyway, Democrats have been searching for new life, new energy since Obama left office. Unfortunately, Mamdani comes with a lot of serious baggage. Obviously, first and foremost, his beliefs are beyond radical and insane. He wants to turn our country into the old Soviet Union. He talks about the elimination of private property, government controlling the means of production, higher taxes on white people. And in the past, he even called for the NYPD to be totally defunded, hates the police, and of course, he wants to send in the social workers. We have shown you over and over what he has posted. Second, Mamdani faces serious allegations about being anti-Semitic and anti-American, unwilling many times to condemn the call for global intifada against the Jews. It doesn't help that radical Islamist Linda Sarsour is now bragging about the important role she will play if Mamdani's elected. She told her followers she will, quote, hold Zohran accountable and tell him what to do when he is in office. As a quick reminder, Linda Sarsour was forced to resign as an organizer of the Women's March over bigoted anti-Semitic remarks like blaming the, quote, Jewish media for her terrible reputation. Needless to say, radical...
Yo, that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, from that community, there are a lot of people on a very extremely anti-Israel, pro-Palestine crowd who, hold anti-Semitic views. There's nothing that like really brings the far left and the far right together, like being anti-Semitic while hating Israel. You can hate Israel without being anti-Semitic, but for those who are like on the extreme wildest wings, like either like on the progressive side or on the far right, like neo-Nazi side, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, like very much will join hands to do whatever they can to besmirch the reputation of Jews and to criticize Israel. So I'm not entirely shocked. And Zohran Mamdani has spent time with other people who similarly had similar levels of ilk and ire towards Israel and allegedly Jews as well. I think there was some guy who was who participated in or in some sort of scheme to blow up a government building in DC way back in like the 2000s or 90s or something, and that person was very much involved in anti-Semitic radical Islamist groups. So, being friends with someone who has radically anti-Semitic views is not really new to Zoran Mamdani. This is something that he's used to.
Like Sarsour, Mamdani are toxic outside of Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens, and even Barack Obama, he couldn't even bring himself to endorse New York City's Democratic nominee. Anyway, Chuck Schumer also refused.
I think that does kind of say something. It could show that mainstream democratic America is not ready yet to accept socialism nationally. Obama is a national figure. So, even if Zoran Mamdani wins, I don't necessarily think that it means that we're just going to dive headlong into socialism all across the country. It certainly is a check engine light for sure. But, when you've also got indicators like Obama not supporting Zoran Mamdani, it shows that, the entirety of America is not ready to accept and embrace socialism yet, which I think is good. I'm not complaining. I'm just trying to assess the situation here.
Used to back Mamdani. Now, it is official. It appears Schumer's days as a senator are numbered. He is a leader in name only and hated by the base of his party. Take a look.
Now, Hakeem Jeffries, your leader, has somewhat reluctantly.
Ilhan Omar is part of the squad. Fans of the squad are not mainstream at all in any shape of the word. They're not. I don't like Hannity's phrasing here. Peep the Orioles mug though. Let's go O's. I've never been a hater of Casey Hunt. But I don't like this framing of Ilhan Omar as being like representative of the base of the Democratic Party or the base of like the left. The majority of the people on the left are not nearly as far left as her. So, this is deceptive framing from Sean Hannity here.
Are numbered. He is a leader in name only and hated by the base of his party. Take a look.
Now, Hakeem Jeffries, your leader, has somewhat reluctantly, but has endorsed Zoran Mamdani. Chuck Schumer still has not. Why do you think Chuck Schumer has not endorsed Zoran Mamdani?
I really don't know. It makes no sense. We as Democrats have always believed that in an election, we support our party's nominee. Schumer has pressured other Democrats to do just that, and he should be following his own advice.
No matter how far radical left Schumer runs, he will never, ever outflank the actual communists that represent the base of his party. Not going to outflank the squad, AOC, Mamdani. They are the true leaders of this new radicalized Democratic Party. Now, Mamdani wins.
See, and this is one thing I don't like about Fox News, which is like they will show you the most extreme leftist and then tell you that all Democrats are like this. This is why. So, like, when people say, "Oh, I watch Fox News, it makes me so angry," I kind of understand why now. Like, I took a break from watching Fox News for the longest time. A lot of that was just like, my parents getting rid of cable, me not having my own subscription to something that had Fox News on it, and me spending more time listening to talk radio and podcasts than, even cable news feeds. But, I got Fox One for college football season. I'm like, hey, why not? I'll watch some Fox News. And the way that they push these culture war stories on their channel, as well as not even mainstreaming, but promoting far left statements from far left politicians as saying, behold the Democrat Party, is it's deceptive. It's a method, I'm assuming, to gin up animosity, agitate the crowd, but also get Republicans active and eager to go vote. I understand why they do it. I don't think it's acceptable. I don't think it's acceptable at all. So I am not afraid to be like, you know what? I don't really like Fox News. I don't like, watching their stuff 24/7. They've got some great shows. What's his name? I'm really Brett Baer. Man, it's a shame I was blanking on his name. Brett Baer. Great show. And Gutfeld can be fighty at times, but overall, just like if you're going to Fox News as your primary source for information, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. I think if you want political commentary, it's fine, but you should get the facts first so that you are informed before you hear something like this. Because if you don't know much about this or don't know much about the Democratic Party, you just watch this, you may just accept everything he's saying, like, okay, cool, interesting. But if you know a little bit more about the landscape of the Democratic Party, then you can sort of watch this with more scrupulous eyes and be like, okay, he's not entirely correct here.
They are the true leaders of this new radicalized Democratic Party. Now, if Mamdani wins tomorrow, he will be the true face of the new radicalized Democratic Party nationwide. But Hakeem Jeffries still doesn't see the writing on the wall, or probably more likely sees it and doesn't want to say the quiet part out loud. He's in denial. Take a look.
And then the mayor of the city in which you live, New York, you've already cast your ballot for mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. Do you see Mamdani as the future of the Democratic Party?
No, I think the future of the Democratic Party is going to fall, as far as we're concerned, relative to the House Democratic Caucus and members who are doing a great work all across the country as it relates to our need to both take back control of the House, but in doing so, make sure that we're communicating to the American people like, we understand you deserve better than the country that you have received.
Well, like Schumer, Hakeem is a leader in name only, and now the truth is it really doesn't matter what he believes. On a similar note, longtime political advisor Crazy Carville, our old friend James, he can discount his party's extremist base all he wants. It's not going to change a thing. It is too late. Radicalism, communism, socialism, even political violence, that is the new modern radicalized Democratic Party, and there are no really mainstream Democrats left, aside from like John Fetterman, who have had the courage to stand up.
John Fetterman is a centrist. I don't think that's mainstream. I don't think it's representative of a mainstream Democrat. I don't know what a good example of a mainstream Democrat would be. I don't know. Maybe let me look this up. Oh, maybe someone like Chris Murphy would be closer to mainstream, or let me see, or Mark Warner, kind of like these folks. But even what's his name? The guy who ran for president and it didn't work out. I forget his name. Actually, could be a lot of people. But yeah, there are moderate Democrats out there. It's just the moderate people tend either to attract little noise, to make little noise, or attract little attention. So just because you're not hearing about moderate Democrats doesn't mean they're not there.
Against the radicals, now trying to burn it all down. According to, look at this political poll, this is from Politico, a significant number of Americans now believe that political violence is okay. Mm-hmm. And a majority of both parties are bracing for a coming political assassination in our country. But that's not stopping the party of hate, the party of radicalism, from doubling down on what I have been calling dehumanizing and frankly, rhetoric that goes so beyond the pale of their political opponents, inciting even by saying Nazi, fascist, racist, Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. And no matter what happens tomorrow, the Democratic Party has a big problem ahead, and it's only going to get worse. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox.
The problem is that, these socialists and commies and progressives are not the base of the Democratic Party, but the Democratic Party is so afraid of losing those voters that they're kind of following them and doing whatever they can to placate them. The problem with that is if they keep on doing that, they're going to get themselves in trouble. They'll get themselves in a situation where they are defending things that are so extreme that they end up pushing away people who are not who pushing away the majority of their actual voters. And I don't think the Democratic Party is willing to let things go that far because, you know, like all major political parties and major politicians, they prefer having the power and they're not willing to relinquish it for brownie points for a handful of progressives at Starbucks. So at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't think that the Democratic Party is going to let the progressives win, but they're going to give them as many wins as they can to maximize their voter base, you know, until that just stops working. There was this interesting video that I found lately. I haven't watched this, but I thought that the premise was rather interesting. This is actually from Cam Newton's podcast or YouTube channel. This is called Hollywood Told Him to Quit Faith Movies He Refused. I'm curious as to what he has to say because I'm a Christian. I like supporting Christian art when I can, but a lot of Christian movies are just not great. I've been seeing an uptick in quality in Christian films, which has been great to see, at least visually when it comes to production level. Now we just got to get to work on those scripts, but any improvement is welcome. I wanted to see what this guest has to say here.
Do you think that the stories that are being told will actually sell? And I mean it through this lens. We hear trash TV. We see reality TV. We see, oh, what's the gossip in that? I want to see somebody throwing some water on people's faces and the jibber jabber with that. Like, I want to look at X while I'm watching this, you know, like I want to see if somebody feeling how I feel. But when you create inspirational content, when you tie in biblical kind of messages to the screen, and you're motivating people in a very unconventional way that it's still getting the job done, does that sell to the masses that in this society some would say is very toxic?
Well, yes, it does sell to the masses. And to be honest with you, like, I don't really look at it from that lens because for me, you know, as a creator of content, if I'm thinking too much about what I think someone wants or doesn't want, then that takes me out of the seat of being in authority over what I create.
Wow.
True.
So part of it is just like being open to like, okay, this is my commitment, right? You know, it's like I was raised in the church, you know, been a Christian all my life, and I believe God has allowed me to be in Hollywood for a very specific reason. And so when I made the commitment to go to Hollywood, the commitment was I want to be in Hollywood to make uplifting content because I believe Hollywood is one of the most influential industries in the world and that it can change people's hearts and minds for the better. So that's the mission statement. That's the business plan. So when I'm thinking about this content, whether it's a Ruth and Boaz or my next film Relationship Goals or my previous film Flamin' Hot about the creator of Flamin' Hot Cheetos. When I'm
he made that movie? Yo, I've actually had that on my watch list. It actually didn't look great. It looked kind of corny, but it also looked funny. And I was like, oh, I should watch that. I think it's on Hulu or something. I should check that out.
About these stories, I'm thinking about what is going to, in the culture, point people higher. Wow. What's going to lift their spirits? What's going to give them a laugh? What's going to heal their heart? And that's what I focus on. Like, I don't really focus on like, all right, well, they like this type of thing, so I'm going to do this type of thing. Like, no, I'm going to do my thing. And I believe that my thing will work. Why? Because when someone sees a great movie, it can change their life.
No, for sure.
Well, the movie has to be great is the thing. And I just don't know that that's what the majority of Christian Hollywood is focused on. Now, I will say the newcomers are really putting in work. The newcomers are at least trying, I can tell. Angel Studios, they're making good stuff. Not all of it's for me, but they're making good stuff. Their acquired stuff is not as good as the stuff they're producing, actually. I think they need to stop acquiring stuff because some of that stuff doesn't look great. It doesn't really fit into the brand that they've cultivated with their earlier things. But the stuff that they've made, generally speaking, is very good. I'm looking forward to seeing Zero AD. Man, you do not know how much it messed up my week to hear that Zero AD got delayed from December 25th. Bro, we're talking about a movie about the coming of Jesus Christ. The first coming of Jesus Christ, right? His birth. We're talking about the lead up to all of that. The movie kind of surrounding everything that happened historically, releasing that on Christmas Day. The premise was fire. The timing of the release, impeccable. And now we're just pushing it back to January. It's like, I'm sure the movie will be great. They've got A-list cast members in that film, but I was just so disappointed. And the fact that I'm so disappointed that a Christian movie got delayed really does show how much better the Christian films are getting.
Keeping my mind on that, and then also being clear on, this is what I'm tasked to do. There are others that are tasked to do different types of content, and that's them. That's cool. But for me, this is my lane, and this is my commitment, and this is my passion. And I do believe that when people see these movies or television shows, their idea of what's realistic changes.
Wow.
I mean, I can't tell you how many people have hit me up about Ruth and Boaz specifically, just saying, wow, I'm open to love. Wow, this really changed my thinking. Wow.
Also, what's going on with Cam Newton's fashion? What are those pants? I first was gonna comment on that, but what are those pants, bro? That's a hide water. Man, those are not hide waters. Those are not high waters. Those are like hurricane warnings. What is going on? What is going on? He might as well be wearing shorts. Man, if you were wearing shin guards like a soccer player wears, those would be more than partially exposed. We're talking about nearly 50%. What is this? It's ridiculous. What? What is this? This is ridiculous. This is bad. His color coordination is fire. You got the accent here. You got the gray offsetting with the black. The hat matches everything color-wise. But, like, what are we doing?
Wow, I've been going through grief.
Like,
and this
you would not
open to love. Wow, this really changed my thinking.
Looking at this picture, you would not guess that this guy is straight enough to have as many children as he has. Like, I don't know what vibe he's trying to go for. I don't think that he hit the right one.
Wow, I've been going through grief and this movie helped me. Like, that's the reason why I do it. So it's not only, good business, but it's also about when this is all said and done. What was the impact that what I had my hand on during my lifetime? What was the impact? What did I do with what I had while I had it? And for me, I can look myself in the mirror and say, man, yeah, I feel like I'm doing a great job as it relates to, staying intentional and staying to the mission and not deviating. There have been times in my career, like coming out of Flamin' Hot, the movie did very well for Disney Plus and Hulu, but nobody in Hollywood at the time wanted to give me a deal. And my team at the time was saying, well, maybe you got to pivot. Maybe you got to stop making, inspirational, aspirational content. Maybe you got to stop making faith content. And I'm like, yo.
Well, the interesting thing is Flamin' Hot was a biopic. It wasn't necessarily a Christian film. So for his team to be going to him and being like, hey, I know you made Flamin' Hot, but you gotta stop making Christian content. It's kind of crazy, to be honest. It's kind of crazy because, at least from what I got from the trailer, it didn't seem like it was just a Christian film. It seemed like it was a biopic.
If that's the answer, then maybe I should not be in the business because I'm not. That's not me. I got to do what I'm called to do. And by sticking to the script and staying committed, even in the face of not knowing when the next paycheck was going to come. Wow. I mean, that's another part of all this. It's like, I don't know if anybody been there before where you just sitting there, you're like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It ain't, I don't know.
I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know when that check is coming. And staying committed.
Yeah.
To the vision and staying committed to the calling is what ultimately got me to the place that now I have this, a great deal with Tyler Perry and Netflix, and Ruth and Boaz is the first movie, and I'm getting ready to start prep on the next movie, and things are rolling in a phenomenal way. But that is how.
So many things, with that, but I want to talk about we're seeing a trend in black filmmakers getting their just due, getting their flowers. Mm-hmm. To name a few, obviously Tyler Perry, Ryan Coogler, Spike Lee, Jordan Peele.
Putting Tyler Perry in that list is hilarious. That's crazy. Oh, No! The great black filmmakers, Spike Lee, Jordan Peele, Ryan Coogler, Tyler Perry. I mean, you can like what you like. I don't mean that doesn't mean I have to like it too. But no. You got to back that up. You can't. Nah.
So many others, with all of you as black men and filmmakers, does Hollywood respect you?
You know, I think so. You know, that's a good question. I mean, but when you name all of those greats who are just phenomenal, you know, incredible talent, and when you look at, you know, their body of work, I think it would be indicative that Hollywood does respect. Because, you know, all of those talents that you just mentioned, and you look at all the films, on the other side of those films is a commitment from Hollywood, a Hollywood studio that is saying, we believe in your vision, we're going to support your vision, we're going to fund your vision. So I do feel that, you know. I also feel that, you know, as black filmmakers, you know, we're always wanting to continue to make our mark. And just because, you know, there was respect yesterday doesn't mean there's going to be respect tomorrow.
That's in everything.
True. And I mean, it seems like he's not in the game for respect, which is great. I mean, the key thing that matters as a believer is, are you doing what God would have you be doing at this moment, right? You know, is what I'm doing right now, is it pleasing to the Lord? That's the big thing. And it seems like he has his mind focused on the right thing, right? Where it's like, I'm not going to be making secular stuff that sort of like promotes a status quo of a secular mindset. I want to be building up the Christian industry, which has been wanting for years. I'm going to be making good quality content in that genre, and that's going to be my lane, and I'm not going to be shifting to the left or to the right. I mean, bravo for this guy. This guy's name is Devin Franklin, I believe. I'm actually going to go, you know, at least watch trailers of his movies now, because, you know, this makes me more interested in his content as a believer myself. This is actually very heartening to see. You know, a lot of times I react to bad news and stuff, but this is actually some good news that we can look at and we can smile about. Let me double check and see here. Do we have any races called? I am going to wrap up the stream. Let's see. Any races called? I will say that I've been eyeing this out of the corner of my eye, and the Attorney General's race in Virginia has been bouncing back and forth between Miyares being in first place and Jones being in first place. And that looks like it's going to be an extremely close race. The other races, not so much. We've got Earl Sears down by about 9%. We've got Hashmi beating Reed rather soundly there, with about a 5% gap as well. So, you know, I think that the Attorney General's race, it looks like it's anyone's game at this point, but the other ones seem to be, for now, safely in the hands of the Democratic Party. But unfortunately, that is all that I have time for today. So I'm going to have to wrap stream up. Thanks everyone who tuned into the stream, by the way. I do appreciate you guys for tuning into the stream, especially because, you know, this was on very short notice. You know, as I say this, Spanberger has won the governor's race in Virginia. So yeah, you know, I was kind of right. You know, that would definitely seem to be safely in the hands of the Democrat. But yeah, especially for such short notice of the stream, I do appreciate you guys jumping into not just watching the stream, but also the chat. You know, I appreciated seeing you guys in there. Of course, I got to give the mandatory shout outs to Only Flutters. Thanks, Only Flutters, for joining the chat. I appreciate you hopping in, even though you don't know anything about politics. And as usual, the Angry Canadian, always nice to see you in the chat. I gotta finally engage with your political stuff. I gotta finally engage with your Canadian stuff and read your articles, because you do be posting about some interesting things. I've just been busy lately. So, but thanks everyone for tuning in. I do appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the We have that channel where I upload a video every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. Unless I'm busy, like I missed a video yesterday, but usually every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I will upload a video. Also, check out the Not a Newbie gaming channel. I'm going to start uploading some gaming segments from the Bro SMP rather soon. Peace out, y'all.